Hello and welcome to the GYFT Show. In this episode, I interview Lea Tran. Lea grew up in pre-communist Vietnam. After the communist takeover, Lea and her family fled Vietnam and headed to the high seas. En route to Malaysia, her family were attacked on 3 separate occasions by pirates. I'm going to let Lea tell the story of her life through her own eyes. Before you watch this video, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. See you at the other end.
Hi everyone, my name is Lea Tran. I am Chinese. I was born in Vietnam. My grandparents had moved to Vietnam from China in the probably early 40s when my dad was only 3 years old. So dad didn't really speak Vietnamese until he was about 36. And that's how big is the Chinese bubble in Vietnam. We have our own community, we have our own temple, we have our own schools. So, everything we did is in Chinese. I went to Chinese school and, everything that we did is almost like a second nature Chinese in Vietnam. And we always know that we are Chinese and we are very strongly rooted. So when 1975, when the communists took over from the north, that invaded the south and won and took over the South Vietnam. So democracy is no longer exist in South Vietnam. And it was okay in the beginning, but after a year or two, things start to restrict it really hard, especially toward the Chinese community, because by 78 they have some discrepancy, things that they have not doing well with China border. So a lot of anger, sort of like getting out toward the Chinese ethnic people, and we were capitalists. In the South Vietnam, we were democratic, we were traders in business. So they targeted a lot in capitalism. I was 12 at the time when North Vietnam took over South Vietnam. And by the time I was 16, my dad's already developed a plan to escape. And so when I tell people I am Chinese, or both people from Vietnam, people think I'm Vietnamese. I say, no, I'm Chinese. So it's like a very identity crisis that I have to keep adjusting myself. Am I Chinese, Vietnamese? And now I'm released to say that I'm American. I'm neither. I have a heritage of Asian, Chinese, Vietnamese, but I'm American. And so for a summary, I came to America when I was 16. Went to school, graduated from college, and was a chemist for 17 years at big pharmaceutical companies like Merck and GYFT. So some of those names, GYFT no longer exists, but Merck's still around. And I was in the chemistry department and did really well. But that was not really my passion in a way. It's dried up after 17 years. So I quit my good paying job to establish a small business, and did custom window treatment for luxury homes. And I was there for 10 years. And at this stage, in my 50s, I am branching out to do something new, something different, as an author, as a speaker, and also as a coach. So yeah, it's never too late. Never too late. I don't think it's ever too late.
I've watched PBS America a number of times. And one of the programs you see on PBS America is the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end of the series, one of the things that struck me was the way, before Saigon fell to the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong, that South Vietnamese soldiers got out of their uniforms and they abandoned their positions. What was life like for the ethnic Chinese as the communist regime started to invade and take over Saigon? How were you affected as a person?
Well, I think all of us get affected. You know, we Chinese thing in particularly was feel like we had no future because, like I said, my dad was actually was a service person in the army for the old regime. He wasn't out in the front. He wasn't out any dangerous position, but he was a jeep driver for a colonel. So for how do you say that? Colonel? Yes. And he went to re-education camp for a couple weeks. But in the whole, I think that when everything, the economy is being attacked, government is nationalize everything. They took over people's business and they can confiscate your home unnoticeable. They just come in and say that this belongs to people and you're out. And, you know, or people disappear in the middle of the night. So there's a lot of horrible things that happen that it's almost like, you know, you can't prepare for it because we woke up a lot of time, some of our neighbors just disappear, vanish, and nobody dare to ask. So we lived in terror. I mean, your government is robbing you, your government is terrorizing you, and school was just all propaganda. So my parents actually want us to have a future, but for having a future, you gotta do something risky. You gotta escape the country and flee to somewhere else for freedom. And my family, there's 5 of us. I'm the oldest. So I think my parents look at their children and saying that their parent fled China so my dad could have a future. And even though it's foreign, you know, Vietnam is not some place that he would say that is his country, but it's a place that he can actually have a hope, have future. So he doesn't know that what's going to happen to us, but he has to make that move to get out of Vietnam. And if any country sponsors us, that is up to God. You know, he couldn't make a decision on that. So luckily, United States, the one who sponsor us. We could have go to Australia. We could have go to Germany. We could have been in Denmark. Who knows? As a refugee, you don't have too much of a choice. So whatever country adopt you or take sponsorship of you, then we went. And luckily, United States is the one who has that humanity heart that sponsor us, because my dad was with a serviceman in the old regime, and I think you know, I think United States feel like they have a moral obligation to do to sponsor all the servicemen that get out from Vietnam. And yeah, it does affect all lives, not just Chinese, but I think Chinese got hit the hardest when the communists took over.
I understand what you're saying there. And again, looking at the PBS America series on Vietnam and the Vietnamese War, one of the things that stood out for me was towards the very end of the South Vietnamese regime, there were American helicopters on the roof of the American embassy in Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah.
And you had loads of Vietnamese people who had been loyal to the South Vietnamese government and the American regime. They were crying for help and they wanted to get on a helicopter to get out to one of the American vessels and get away from the North Vietnamese regime. Can you just describe for us what it was like when the North Vietnamese people and their regime changed your school curriculum from science and artistic subjects to one that was more based on communist or Viet Cong propaganda? How did you feel about that as a school-going person?
Yes, it was very discouraging because at 12, 13 years old, I'm start understanding science and I'm understanding, you know, language and poetries. And like I said, I went to a Chinese school. So Chinese was mainly the language that we're studying from. And our teacher were people from Taiwan, the curriculum history is all about opposite from what the communists was teaching, right? So when the communists took over, all the history that we learned from the past is invalid because now those are the corrupted people. they're not the heroes anymore. The heroes are the communists, the party, the Ho Chi Minh Party. So it changed day and night. And education was not something that was an important factor, because we went to school. We do a lot of singing, praising Uncle Ho and the party. And it's almost like mostly brainwashing. And I got very discouraged. I came home and I said to my mom's like, I don't really find schools interesting, because all we did is sing and dance, and very basic stuff. And all the history is very conflicting from what I have learned so far for 7th and 8th grade up to that point. So I did not enjoy school, and my mom and dad actually did take me out of school in 1978, getting ready to learn all the domestic skills so I can be more helpful to the family when we get out. So that was the planning. And I've learned to cook, I learned to knit, I learned to sew, I learned to, do everything that a woman should do at the household. And hopefully those skills would be able to help me further my life skill in the future. And it did. When I went to the refugee, I did use my sewing skill. But as far as education concerned, when my mom took me out of the school, and that was my one goal. My one and only goal said that if I ever get to a free country, that's what I will start all over. Go back to school and be the best student I can be to finish my education.
Thank you. Another thing I remember from that series of programs on the Vietnam War was at the very, very end, when I saw pictures of people from South Vietnam. They were building boats. They were trying to escape the North Vietnamese regime, and they were heading out to sea in boats that were crudely built, to say the least. People took their life in their hands. And in some cases, people lost their lives at sea. Can you outline for the audience some of the highs and lows of your sea journey from Vietnam to Malaysia and Indonesia?
Well, I think there's a lot of lows. One high thing is we made it alive. We got to land, and that's the high of all high it can be. But yes, it was really a perilous journey. Getting out of Vietnam was just the very beginning. And the first day was relatively calm. And then after 24 hours, we encountered the first pirates that they disguised. We thought it was some merchant ship that is out in the sea. So we actually chased after them to hope that they will rescue us and represent some country, because here's saying there's a lot of big merchant boats out there from Singapore, from Belgium, from different merchant boats out there. And if you get to see any of those boats, they have to rescue you, because you are packed, right, in these little boats, and they cannot not rescue you. So when we saw a big boat, we were all happy, thinking maybe somebody out there is going to rescue us. So we chase after them. But the first very instinct that they jump into our boat with guns and with bandana and with, face drawing, we knew that this is not our savior. So they took everything. They destroy all the food in the water. They dump things out of the container so they can look for goals and look for possession. And then the next day we got into another pirate's boat that doing the same thing. They quickly coming in and they quickly withdraw after they took out everything. And we were devastating at that time. It was really scary, because we couldn't think about anything else except that hopefully that they wouldn't shoot the boat or sink us or rape us or take people away, to some remote island that we wouldn't know where it would be. So there was no fighting, and we were so sick, and we were vomiting and throw up, and it was a mess. And then the third round, we got another 2 boats of pirates. I think that they have backup, and they call each other or whatever. I didn't understand at that time, but they were sandwiching our boat and they were thinning out the people, and they did a really last search. Like they scrape everything, all the food, the compass they throw away. So I don't think they intend to kill us, but they just didn't want to rescue us, and they didn't want to kill us because I think that would be too inhumane. But they know that if they toss the compass, we're pretty much surely we're going to die because we had no direction to go. And when we get to, luckily, somehow we float and float, we get to Malaysia. And we thought that we will be saved by the Malaysian coastal guard. And it turned out that there are just too many refugees who get to Malaysia, and they were so overcrowded. So they pull us back to the ocean. Not helping us, but they pull us back out of their territory so they didn't have to be responsible for us. So it was the lowest point, because now we didn't have food. The engine was broken. We didn't, actually there's a hole in the boat somewhere that my dad said after we landed. He said he was struggling to trying to patch that hole without telling anybody, because he didn't want any people to get panic. And we would just pretty much, give up, because you at the point that you have no control. You're in the big vast ocean with this little speck of the boat with 500 people. And we gave up. And we said that, let it be a quick death. Let the wave just, take us and we all sink. But luckily we woke up on the 6th day. We saw an oil rig. So I don't even know what country of that oil rig's from, but they're not allowed to save us because they for some ever legal reason, I don't know. But they passed the hose to our boats, so we got water to drink. They gave us crackers to eat, and they gave us a compass, and they fixed the engine real quick, and then they show us to Indonesia, where they were still accepting refugee at the time. So we were overjoyed and thank God for that final destination. And, there's many low moments, but I have to say that the high moments is the one who overcomes everything on that 7-day journey.
Yeah. So when you reached Indonesia, it was a godsend for you. And I presume you had to spend some time in a refugee camp in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Can you explain for the audience what the conditions were like there?
Well, we didn't see civilization for a while because those are remote islands that inhabitable. Nobody lives there except, maybe some bushmen or some people, but we barely seen. So what they did is they took some of the island and they concentrate all the refugee people there, and tens of thousands of people over there with no drinking water. So we have to go to the jungle to go to the stream to get water. And obviously there's no electricity, and there is a lot of bugs and trash for tens of 20, 30,000 people. Things accumulate really quick. We totally, I want to say, destroy the island because people have to chop down all the palm trees and make huts. And, everybody was living on the beach side. But then as more people come, they move further and further into the mountainside, to the island. And we chop wood for cookings, and United Nations was not aware and give a lot of help at the time. So the Indonesian people just let us sort of do whatever we need to do to settle ourselves. And there's some merchant boats. Finally, after months in, they did have some of the Singaporean people imported like pork and beers and things that make that island into a little livable place. But it was really a place that lots of people get sick from malaria and from toxic water, and there's no filter. Just it's very, the sanitary condition was horrible, and they have to make toilet out on the beach fronts, so there's no privacy. and there's a communion that you have to share, everything you have to share. So yeah, thinking back, I don't know how we survived it, but I guess we did. For 8 months, we hopped from 5 different islands because they'd like to move you to every stage of you move a little closer to the up the list to being sponsored. You have to transfer to a different island. It was an experience that I hope nobody will have to go through that.
Thank you for sharing your experience of living on those remote islands in Indonesia. I would say, at best, the conditions were rudimentary and very, very basic. Can you let the audience know the emotional impact you felt when you saw that your family was sponsored to go to the United States?
It was a dream come true. We were interviewed by different countries, and I know ultimately my family, my dad really want United States because it's the best place on earth. I hate to say it, but I'm a little biased because I live in America now, and I think America is a place that you can be whoever you want to be because it is a melting pot. It is a salad bar. There's many variety here in America. You can't go to Germany saying that you are German. You can't go to Italy and say you're Italian, right? But you can definitely come to America and say you're American. It doesn't matter what you look like. You are still going to be American. So yeah, the hope was America, and we were told that we are going to America. So the joy was overwhelming, and I was so looking forward to a new life, a new journey, and especially to go back to school. And being the oldest, I have to help my parents doing a lot of paperwork, even though I wasn't really sure what I was doing. But both my mom and dad are illiterate. My mom only went through 5th grade, and my dad only went through 3rd grade in Chinese school, so he didn't even know how to read or write in Vietnamese. And I had a little background in French when I was in Vietnam. My dad have a private tutor and come and taught us in French. So I had about 4 years of French, but of course, none of them are usable in America. But I was, it's okay. It's easier to learn American when you have a little bit of French background. So so I was extremely ecstatic, and so was my family. And I can't imagine the joy to go to America than anywhere else in the world.
I've had the benefit of reading your book. I did not miss the boat. And one of the things that stood out for me in your book is the sacrifices your parents made to get yourself and your siblings educated. Yeah. Can you give some outline of those sacrifices for the audience, please?
It's really hard to just saying that, what they have done, because I think not just my parents, I think many refugees, it's bravery. It's really a bravery move to left everything you built your whole entire life, everything that you only known at that point, to get to a place when you start up a new place at your 40s. Not just the culture, the language, everything. And for them to actually think that, that's what necessary for us to thrive, to have a future. That is the sacrifice that I can't really even put a price tag on it. It's almost like completely selfless. Don't think about you at all. All you're going to have to go through is for your children. And my dad had a really successful company career in Vietnam, even though he called himself as a blind ox because he didn't have education. Like I said, he never gone to 3rd grade. His dad was killed when he was 3, so he pretty much had to go out and help his mom to support the family. And he has like 3 younger siblings that he was helping his mom. So he worked really hard, but he did a very good, successful business with partner up with a couple other friends, and he has a dye company who dyed thousands of yards of fabric, and it was successful very much before the communists took over. And when the communists took over, they confiscated the company and they bankrupt a lot of people. So he has to build up again, going from a middle class that learned to speak the language in the country at 36 years old. And at 44 years old, he has to come over to United States and build up everything from the ground up, not knowing English. And he was afraid that we're going to become American and not knowing our own roots. So that's another thing. But he knew that in a sense that he has to let us go if we want to grow. And whatever they did, they worked so hard. In the restaurant, my mom was sewing from at home, at the factory, and babysitting. Everything they did was just for us. And that's why I want to write this book, because I want to honor his legacy. I can never repay the sacrifice that he did for us, but at least I can do a little bit of a good thing to honor him. And in that same token, honor a lot of refugee parents who did the unthinkable things so their children can thrive and can have a future and have freedom. Because freedom is everything. We rather die if we didn't have freedom. And that's why we went to the sea to look for hope. And I'm so glad that God looked over us and give us this second chance.
Thank you for that answer. Now that your dad has moved on and you're now starting out as a professional speaker and career coach, what motivated you to change career from pharmacist to professional speaker and career coach? And secondly, if your dad was to look down at you today, I'm sure he would be very happy for you. So can you just explain why you decided to, I suppose you could say, retire as a pharmacist and become a career coach and professional speaker?
Well, I want to correct you. I was not a pharmacist. I was a chemist.
Yeah.
So pharmacists, we like to joke, pharmacists just counting pills. We actually make the pills. So I was in the research development, basic research. And so I mix a lot of chemical compounds and then testing in vitro and then into animal and then in human. So a lot of basic development at that stage. And I love being a chemist because it was an outlet for me to do my creativity without speaking a lot. Because all I need to do is just formula and chemical and drawing reaction, and I didn't have to use my speaking skills or writing, because you pretty much just write procedure and observation, and those are pretty easy. But somehow I know I'm a people person. I know I want to make bigger impact. Many days that I stand inside the lab and look out the windows and wonder what else is out there for me. If I can get over that fear of speaking, if I can actually make an impact. I know I was making an impact, making medicine, right? Making drug. It was an impact. But I want more of an impact that people can actually receive from me face to face. And I want to see that achievement that get people out of the field like I was. I'm pretty much hiding in a safe place and be invisible and doing my things. And there's a lot of time that we have story, and I think that my story can actually push a lot of people think about how they can actually transform their lives by overcoming the fear. And I decided to walk away from the science field because I didn't go to speaking right away, because I was still love to create. So I walk away to create a business that doing home decorating, So that's another different way impacting my clients, because I start decorating a nurturing space for them, a place that is a sanctuary. They come home from work, they feel relaxing, they have nice, beautiful window treatment, drapery. And I see the happiness in them because I created a space that they want to stay in. But after those 10 years, and I'm start asking questions, I have done so much in my life to please everybody else, but I'm not happy still, because I have this, I feel like there's a phrase that from Maya Angelou say that, there's nothing more, how did I say it? I forget, I keep saying, there's nothing more agony than bearing an untold story inside you. So I felt like I have an untold story inside me. That is my biggest agony. And not just because I want to tell the story to have people pity on me or anything, but I feel like if I can come from a place that is destitute and not able to speak and understand the culture, and it took me a long time, 40 years, it was a long time. But now I'm at a place that I'm comfortable with my own skins, I'm comfortable with my own identity. I can tell the story to push other people to get beyond their fear and to be able to do whatever they love. And I love the freedom of walking away to be able to impact lives in a much bigger way, more direct, instead of just, making compound and medicine and not seeing who I saved or who I helped, or making drapery. It's all about helping people, but I'm just choosing a different way to help people that I can directly impact them, to push them to do more with my story. Hopefully that they can resonate with whatever story or whatever background they're coming from. They don't have to hold themselves and settle for things that they don't like to do. They can always excel to a point that, they can choose their own destiny and do whatever makes them happy. So changing career at this age is not easy, but I have to say that I'm loving my life right now. I am enjoying what I do. I love meet people all over the world. John, you're the one of the many people I met through different networking group. And I have clients, all over different part of the world. So it is very exciting to expand myself in that way. And it's a joy to see how I can help change people's lives.
What does the future hold for Lea Tran?
Well, my future I think, is bright. Now that we have Zoom, we can connect people all over the world. And the next step for me is I want to see those people in person. So once the coronavirus pandemic is over, I hope that I can do book tours. I can tell people my story face to face, and I can see the people I help face to face, helping them to get over their own inherited trauma, their own limitation, that they feel that they are trapped in the place because they don't have the capability to do something else that they want to do. And I want to tell every single one who are listening that you have the capability to do everything you want to do. Don't limit yourself. All we need to do is pick up the learning tools and have your determination. How hungry are you for what you want to be? How badly you want it. And I think everything I do in life is just because I want it so badly. I want to be going back to school when I get out of Vietnam. I want it so badly that I did everything I could. I could have dropped out of college when my dad passed away, but I didn't. I went back and speed things up, and I got my diploma. And I wanted a steady paycheck, and I did. I found the best job I could get a steady paycheck. And when I was not happy, I just exit out and find a happiness and build a business. And when I start feeling that I could do more, I step away from the business and build something else. So you can always change because your passion change. You can always change. And my hope is the next step for me is I can help you thousands and thousands of people, change whatever they want to change. And that's my desire, to build my own legacy, not just for my children, but hopefully that I can help lots of people do whatever they want to do and get to meet them and have fun.
Great answer. And your story today has been a great example of resilience, because when your back is to the wall and you're faced with making hard choices in life, you have to take a risk. And there's no doubt about it, but your parents took a decision to leave Vietnam and leave behind their friends and their families,
Right.
and to find a much better life for you eventually in the United States. Have you anything you'd like to say to the audience? How can the audience reach you?
Well, they can go to leatran.com, LEATRAN. That's my website. And you can connect with me on all social media platforms. Lea Tran, author and speaker. That's my handle on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find. I'm pretty much very active on social media, so you can find me anywhere. But the best place to go to check me out is leatran.com. And if anything I can help you, please don't hesitate to contact me. I have been helping people how to write their story and how to prep for a TEDx talk. And also, I'm big on personal development. And I think, if you get your personal development, you prepare, opportunity will come and you can snatch it so you won't miss any boat. Just like I didn't miss my boat, and I don't want you to miss your boat either.
We'll put the contact details for your website and social media accounts in this video. I hope you've been inspired by Lee's story. Before I bring on my next guest, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you again for your support.